Hi, I'm Christine Matus from the Matus Law Firm. Oftentimes, we are asked whether or not a married couple should have one will. Well, it is possible, but it's not recommended. Having a will is one of the most important documents you can have to help describe what happens to assets when you die. Here are top 4 reasons why you should have a separate will from your spouse. Number 1. Joint wills are very difficult to change when one spouse dies. When a will is created, you can make changes while you're alive, but once you die, that will becomes permanent. In a joint will, if one spouse dies and the other spouse survives, having that will changed is very complex and very complicated. We highly recommend separate wills. Number 2. Privacy concerns for the living spouse. When a will is being probated, meaning when it's being authenticated, that will becomes a public document. Anything in that will can be discoverable, read, and researched. Oftentimes, once one spouse dies and the other spouse is living, in a joint will, all of your assets are now public. And if you have a concern about privacy, you will not be able to change that. Number 3, different needs for each spouse. Oftentimes, spouses have the same goals, have the same dreams. But if you have a spouse that had different relationships or different ideas and different needs, having a joint will becomes very challenging. If you have those situations where you may have a blended family, children from other relationships, oftentimes having a separate will is ideal because you can address those separate needs in a way that doesn't affect your surviving spouse. Number 4, spouses typically die at different times. Oftentimes, spouses have the dream of being together forever, for a long time. They have the same dreams and the same goals. And many times, they also imagine that they will pass together. But in reality, that happens rarely. Many times, spouses die at different times. And if you have a joint will, having spouses die at different times makes things very complicated, especially because if you need to make changes, you need to make updates. Once you have that joint will and one spouse dies, that will becomes permanent. Have a separate will. It makes it easier for you to make changes, and it is also so much easier for your beneficiary to carry out your wishes in your unique way. And there you go. Those were the top reasons why you should have separate wills. Again, if you have more questions, it's so important to contact our firm. We'll be happy to discuss your unique situation and again explain why it's so important to have separate wills for you and your spouse.